Donald Trump destroys E. Jean Carroll's credibility on day one of the trial, and he does it on his Truth Social account. She was in court. Donald Trump was in court. We're here for the second defamation trial. They're saying Donald Trump said some things that he shouldn't have said about E. Jean Carroll, this woman who we've seen before here on this channel. Now, there was a trial previously where the jury ruled that Donald Trump gave the old DJ diddles in a dressing room at Bergdorf, something like 20 years ago, but found that Trump was not liable, did not do the more serious offense, the R offense, the old hibbity-dibbity with the other thing. So one was with the fingers, the other was with the other item, and they say that the more serious allegation did not happen, which is interesting because E. Jean Carroll said that it did. So the jury found she was not credible about that allegation. Why they found that she was credible on the other allegations, I'll never know, but probably because they just felt bad for her and they hated Trump. They wanted to give away something. But my point is, even the first trial was lacking in credibility. We're going to hear more about who this woman is. We're going to see today Trump arrived in person this time. He was not present much at the last trial, but he is there today. We've got a mandate that came down from the Second Circuit. We'll have some updates, but Trump was on Truth Social just repeating a lot of E. Jean Carroll's own words against her. And they had a field day about this in court, which we'll get to because both the plaintiff and Trump's defense commented on this, kind of her words. And they're saying that we need to stop Trump from doing this. We need to shut Trump up. In fact, Roberta Kaplan, E. Jean Carroll's lawyer, said, how much money is it going to take to shut him up, right? He has a lot of it, so you got to make it hurt. We're going to get reaction from Joe Brezinski on the morning Mika show, and we'll also hear what Nikki Haley has to say about it. But this is the scene as Trump showed up. You can see his motorcade is piling into the Southern District of New York where all this is taking place, and this comes right on the heels of a big victory in Iowa. So he was busy. He was out there giving a big speech, clocking in 51% of the vote there. Nice showing, and done in about 10 seconds. Polls open, polls closed. Trump's the winner, done. And so now he hopped on a plane and now he's back over here in New York. They are piling in. So that is the scene in New York. And we also have another arrival. E. Jean Carroll is there on the scene. We have a couple versions of this. Here, this is the same woman. We're familiar with who she is. Was awarded about $5 million. They actually awarded her more money for defamation than the actual DJ diddle, than the assault, which is wild. So in other words, they said that Trump owed her less money for the assault than he did for calling her a liar. Interesting priorities. But here is E. Jean Carroll walking in. Her lawyer is right there behind her. That's Roberta Kaplan. We're familiar with her. Same lawyer who's been around for a while. Now, a lot of people are cheering her on as she pours in. You can hear in the background, people are saying, thank you. You can hear it in the background. I'll play another clip. And as she was walking in, let's see, there was this other angle where people are just elated to see her. Okay, they have really not much of a life. And so what they do is they go and they support their anti-Trump icons. And look at all these people. I don't know what they're doing today. I mean, I think they're supposed to probably be working or whatever, but they don't care. They're going down there and they're going to support E. Jean Carroll because she is working to take out Trump. Listen.
We love you. Yeah. You're a hero.
There's a lot of activity there. Obviously, that's what it looked like on scene. So that came over from Bloomberg as well. Now, we also saw that today we had the petition. Donald Trump was saying, look, I should be immune from this. Okay, I was the president. And the Second Circuit came out and said, no, that's not actually how this is going to work. And largely because of the following. They say, it is hereby ordered that the July 5th order of the district court is affirmed. Why? It rejects Trump's presidential immunity defense and it denied his request for leave to amend his answer. Affirming all of this, it says it struck Trump's immunity and the immunity defense from his answer to the amended complaint. And so this order is dismissed and it's remanded back to the district court for further proceedings. And so Trump doesn't have immunity as the president. Now, you can see why this one might make sense. Things that happened 20 years ago in a dressing room at Bergdorf, that's not within the confines of the presidential office at all. Not within the outer perimeter at all. It has also happened before he was president, before he was even thinking about being president. So they're keeping that separate in scope. Now, the statements that he made were probably in contemplation of being president, right? I don't know the exact time of his statements, but they were made in contemplation of being president, or to defend his role as the president, or to defend his credibility as the president. But they're still saying that is related back to another issue, and so that's too far removed from the executive duties. And so you see how you could distinguish that from the other immunity case, which is currently pending in the DC Circuit Court of Appeals, not the Second Circuit, which is where New York is. So that is what came down. So all that means is trial's on. Okay, Trump's case is not being dismissed, and that was to be expected. But we also saw that Donald Trump's prior attorney is now gone. New York Times posted this, says Trump lawyer withdraws. This guy, Joe Tacopina, who was around for the first trial, not around anymore, said that he is no longer representing Trump, sent a notice in, and it was a pretty simple notice. Let me just share what that looked like with you. You can see just a very simple letter here from Joe. Your Honor, I write to respectfully inform the court that my firm, Chad Siegel, and I hereby withdraw as counsel for Donald Trump in this proceeding. And actually that, I think, might have been a different case. Here, this says, Mr. Tacopina also withdrew from another case, there you go, an appeal of the verdict, so 2 cases, okay, so he's off 2 cases. No longer going to represent him in his criminal trial with Juan Mercan. So the one I just showed you was for the Alvin Bragg case. Tacopina also withdrew, he's off 2 cases now, from the one with E. Jean Carroll, which is happening now. Trump was already fined $5 million, sanctioned, found liable for that to pay her damages. Now, it's not clear why Tacopina withdrew. He declined to comment. Now, this comes as Trump enters into 2 other cases. Asked for comment, Trump spokesman Stephen Chung, spokesman for Mr. Trump, did not directly address this, saying, you know, Mr. Trump has most experience, most qualified, discipline, and overall the strongest legal team ever assembled as he fights various cases, which he slammed as partisan efforts, obviously true. But the team has shrunk. Tacopina, a pugnacious New York defense lawyer, has a long history of wins, represented a lot of high-profile people, ranging even from Fox News' Sean Hannity, calling him one of the best defense lawyers of all time. Their withdrawal comes just 1 day before jury selection starts, and of course, that's where we're at now. And so we're going to jump into that here in a second. But first, Trump blasts E. Jean Carroll. And I want to go through this because this is important context. Now, the judge is going to keep a lot of this out. The judge is going to say, no, you don't get to talk about whether you did it or not. We have this concept in the law called res judicata and collateral estoppel. It's essentially, you can't relitigate something that's already been litigated if it's kind of the same parties and the same issues and stuff. It's to preserve judicial economy, to think of it that way. And you don't want, you know, split rulings and stuff like that. So the judge in this case is saying Trump doesn't even get to debate whether there was an assault, whether there was a DJ diddle, or whether anything happened in the dressing room. That has already been settled. It's already done. So we don't get to relitigate that. What we're relitigating now is Trump's new statements, okay? Whether Trump made new statements about that thing that they say actually factually happened, and whether Trump's statements about that were defamatory or not. So that's it. We're only on this like second part of this. So Trump came out, since he's not going to be able to talk about any of that stuff, whether what actually happened in Bergdorf, so he can't testify to any of that. He came out and posted a bunch of stuff on Truth. And let's take a look. This is one of the weirdest things I've ever heard. And here is that exchange, I think. Yeah, here was the full exchange here from Cooper with E. Jean Carroll. This is the woman who's accusing Trump of this attack. What?
You don't feel like a victim?
I was not thrown on the ground and ravished, which the word rape carries so many sexual connotations. This was not sexual. It hurt, you know.
But I think most people think of rape as it is a violent assault. It is not.
I think most people think of rape as being sexy.
Let's take a short break.
Think of the fantasies.
We've got to take a quick break. If you can stick around, we'll talk more on the other side.
You're fascinating to talk to.
Yeah, so are you, weird lady. Okay, so Coop is like, cut it, man, cut it. Somebody's in his earpiece, cut it. You gotta go to a break. And yeah, he looks a little uncomfortable, doesn't he? In this whole thing here, let me move myself out of the way. He's like, you're weird. Like his head, his body language, he's like pulling away from her, just getting away from her, just like, oh gosh. E. Jean, what? What are you doing? Gross. What are you talking about? All right, cut it. Cut the feed before she says she loves to get, you know, whatever. So we'll just leave that there. Now, Trump posted this, says everything interesting, says E. Jean Carroll. This is from her account, January 6, 2014. So a long time ago, but this is the type of person. Says everything interesting on Twitter is about sex. Okay. So are you just one of those people, E. Jean? You know, those people, like they're just obsessed with it for whatever reason, you know, they just can't help themselves. Only thing they talk about. Here is E. Jean Carroll. She says, here's a sex tip that I learned from my dog. Says when in heat, chase the male treadmill until he collapses with exhaustion, then jump him. That was in 2010, long time ago. She says, you know, this was a long time ago too, these allegations, by the way. So this is her kind of mindset. From 2015, she says, E. Jean Carroll, how do you know your quote, unwanted sexual advance is unwanted until you advance it? Oh, right? Almost like you want, you know, to be attempts made at you or something, right? Interesting. Very interesting. Here's another one. She posted this in 2011, says, would men have invented chastity belts, veils, and crocs if women weren't just unbelievably hot? Honey, you were born to seduce. Here's another one from Trump. In bed, would you rather be called, quote, normal or, quote, unusual? Looks like these are Facebook posts talking about that again, like obsessed with it. Here's another one. Really, does any woman like performing that on a man? Does any woman really like it? Okay, it's like, gosh, 143 comments. That's what they're debating. I love it. I don't love it. You know, all this stuff. Okay, nice contribution to the conversation. Here, E. Jean posted this. How much pornography should a man be allowed to watch every day? And she puts allowed in quotes, you know, 60 comments in there. What are you talking about? It's degeneracy. Here's another one. In bed, there's another one. Normal or unusual? I don't know, E. Jean. Here's one. Says, E. Jean says, quit asking me to have porn sex. What is that? I pretended to like it, quote, but I didn't. Here's another one. She posted this one with an upskirt. There's an upskirt under the skirt right there. She says, the best sex toy is your brain. Again, you know, talking about this stuff constantly. That was in April 2015. Here's another one. She posted this one 2013. What can be done about the small shift? It gets large when you want it small and stays small when you want it large. Okay, so I think that's a penis joke? I don't know. She says, a chap is not a mind reader. Show him what you like or he will soon regret he even has a wiener. Okay, so E. Jean. All right, here's another one. Whoa, she's talking about the back door. She says, are you behind it or is it now what it's cracked up to be? The girl wants her chap to stop asking her for this stuff. Now here, Trump had some commentary. He says, you know, the only right, honest, and lawful thing that this judge, Lewis Kaplan, who we're going to hear from soon in the next segment, who has so far been unable to see clearly because of his absolute hatred of Trump, me, the only thing he can do is end this un-American injustice being done to a president of the United States who was wrongfully accused by a woman he never met, saw, or touched, and a photo line doesn't count, and knows absolutely nothing about, right? Trump said, I never met her. And you're like, well, what about this photo? He's like, I take photos with a lot of people. That's not meeting them. And they said, why you met her? Now, I have been considered an A-list celebrity for decades, says Trump. And they're going to say, this is defamation. Okay, they're going to say, Trump, that's a defamatory statement. You never met her. Yes, you did. We already found that you did. We already found that you DJ diddled her in a dressing room at Bergdorf 20 years ago when this demented woman was making up insane things on her, you know, social media because she was a sex-obsessed freakazoid and knows absolutely nothing about it, right? They're going to say, oh, that's defamation. They're going to sue him again for another $1 million. Now, I have been considered an A-list celebrity for decades. And so even decades ago, since no one knows which date or dates to refer to, because she just doesn't even have any dates where the Bergdorfing allegedly happened, because the accusing woman can't say the day, the month, the season, or the decade. They don't even know the year. It would have been impossible for me to walk into a crowded department store surrounded by buildings that I own, right opposite the cashier's checkout desk, without being written about on page 6 and every other outlet at the time. Remember, those gossip columnists were perhaps even more vicious and even more obsessed than the internet is today. And that's part 1 from Trump. He says, here's page 2. E. Jean changed her false Monica Lewinsky type story on the dress, which she taunted us with after it was proven the dress had no connection to me. They're gonna say, oh, that's defamation. She has been, quote, all over the place on the timing of this alleged incident, which never took place and is being coached by lunatic radical left Democrat operative called attorney Roberta Kaplan, who we saw walking into court, who has sued me before and just lost. I'm the only one who has been injured by this attempted extortion. E. Jean Carroll, who was down on her luck and failing in life, nastily calling her African-American husband an ape, which she did, by the way, and I think they kept that out of the first trial. I can't remember that. Extremely racist. And they thought that the jury maybe should hear that because this woman's kind of, you know, not well in the head. And the judge, well, that's a little too provocative. We can only tell her about the bad things that Trump did, tell the jury about what Trump did, but not about what she did. And her cat's name was called Vagina. All right, I just have to say it. Now, has gained money and fame she's so badly wanted. Now, it is my duty to America to right this egregious wrong. Now, a case which was started based on no facts, no dates, no nothing, just fabricated lies and political shenanigans. Says my lawyer said in the first trial that Judge Kaplan should have put them together, these two, that it was beneath me as the president of the United States and leading candidate to assume office again, with her having no evidence, facts, or credible story, or even knowing when the so-called act took place to attend the first trial. They didn't want him there. So Judge Kaplan should put this whole corrupt, crooked Joe Biden directed election interference attack on me immediately to rest. He should do it for America, because a president was accused of doing something he did not do by an unknown to him woman seeking fame, fortune, and publicity for her ridiculous book. Boom. Okay, so that's another lawsuit. Okay, Trump's going to be sued again for that right there. Brace yourself for that one. Now, here we see some more posts, and Trump's on a tear. He says, by the way, Reid Hoffman, who is the co-founder of LinkedIn and a critic of Trump, has helped pay for E. Jean Carroll's lawsuit. He's just been the funder for this. Hoffman's disdain for Trump is no secret. By the way, Reid Hoffman was all around Jeffrey Epstein, island, plane, whole thing. Hoffman's chief political advisor said the goal is to stop Trump. That's exactly what he does. Byron York had a conversation with this guy, said he's profoundly anti-Trump. Question to him was, are you currently paying your counsel's fees? This is a contingency case for E. Jean. Here's what Carroll said. Okay, so you're not paying expenses, anything out of pocket, is that right? Well, I'm not sure about expenses. I have to look it up. Is anyone else paying your legal fees? No, she said. Wrong. That's not true. Reid Hoffman has been coming out of pocket to pay for these fees for quite some time. Now, Trump is just, post after post about E. Jean Carroll, backed by Democrat mega donor, right? It's a Democrat hit job. And by the way, they changed the statute in New York so that this claim could come through. And it has. Here's Trump saying, thank you, Vivek. It's a great honor. That's back to Iowa. So you can see Trump was on a tear today, just one after the other. Boom, 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 saying this woman is fake. Here, Vanity Fair wrote about her. They said the E in E. Jean Carroll stands for Elizabeth. This is what they wrote. A name that she gave herself after growing up as Betty Jean. She lives in a cabin that she calls the Mouse House, surrounded by trees with trunks that she's painted a striking shade of blue. Wow, she's so unique and spunky. When she embarks on a road trip, she drives in a Prius named Miss Bingley, and she leaves behind her cat called Vagina T Fireball. Isn't she just so fun? She's so energetic and out there. Now, other Facebook posts also uncovered, and she's talking about wieners all over the place. Constant wiener obsession. I don't know why. It says here, in the last week, you've gone to living a pretty private life. Now you're in the public eye. What's that been like, E. Jean? She says, oh, it's been fabulous. It's been buoyant. It's been almost merry. Loves it. This irrelevant writer is suddenly now the topic of everybody. As I walked to somebody on my phone, I was talking to them on the phone. A man just stood in front of me bowing as I talked on the phone. What a freak. What a weirdo. She said it was amazing. It was like he was standing in front of Queen Elizabeth. She's like, I'm so famous now. Weird. And who is this dude who's bowing in front of her? Like, is he all right? Is he on fentanyl? Is he one of those guys in San Francisco or here in, Van Buren? Gosh, all right, weird. So she loves it. Here's another one from Vanity Fair. She said, well, in the book, you call yourself a hideous woman. Is this true, E. Jean? Tell us about that. She said, oh, I was bad. I was bad. Why? Because you flashed a professor, she says? Well, he was the most popular professor on campus, so adorable. He went on to Washington to become quite a big deal. He was the golden boy. He was in the Ballantine Hall lecturing. Ballantine Hall is the largest auditorium campus at the time. I had the temerity to walk on the stage in a trench coat and dark glasses. I opened my trench coat, oh gosh, wearing a bright yellow bikini, and to flash that man 4, 5, 6 seconds. He could barely stand up. He was probably retching. Yeah, probably puking his guts out. Now, if a man did that today to a female professor, I hope they'd be in jail, obviously. Yeah, yeah, clearly. So I put myself on the hideous list. Now, he married a friend of mine. Do you feel guilty looking back on that later? She says, no, I laughed my butt off about it. It was great. Okay, so that's who we're dealing with. All right, so that's from Trump. A bunch of different posts. Let's see if there's anything else good. Oh yeah, Vanity Fair says, hey, E. Jean, you also confessed to sexually harassing Roger Ailes. Is this true? You sexually harassed Roger Ailes while you had a show on his cable channel called America's Talking. He's also on your list of hideous men, but you said he was once a friend, right? She says, oh yeah, I did it. You sexually harassed Roger Ailes? Yeah, I did it. Every chance I had. I call him the pearl of his sex. Right on the air, I told him that. I roll up my my trouser legs.
What?
I would wait for the camera to come over. Then I would slowly pull up to the right, and then the left trouser leg, it would say Roger Ailes on her leg.
What?
She wrote it down here, and she'd like pull it up, like rolling it back, like the R, roll it past the O, then to the G. It's like Roger Ailes, like up towards her genitals. What a weirdo. Said, I would say he's my future husband. It never stopped. I'd ask him to twirl for me. I adored him. Okay, so she's just mental, obviously. He's on your list of hideous men. You know, this is like workplace stuff. She's okay sexually harassing Roger Ailes. It's like, look, I don't know if they had this type of relationship. Like, you can understand, like, maybe two people have kind of a weird relationship or whatever. This is not this, okay? This is like something weird. What makes a hideous woman as opposed to a hideous man? Is there a difference? She says, no, I don't think there's a difference. If you're a hideous woman, you're a hideous woman. What I did was wrong, and hideous women are hideous. So Trump on a tear, just absolutely blasting what this woman is, and her credibility is, of course, shot. Now, this is a great montage, just if you had any doubts about this. This ultimately came over from Grabian, and Grabian does great work on assembling montages. And so here's just an excerpt before we get into some reaction from Nikki Haley and others, and then jump into the X script of day one in the next segment. We're going to hear a little bit more from E. Jean. This is what she sounds like.
Charge against Donald Trump for this? Why not?
I would find it disrespectful to the women who are down on the border, who are being raped around the clock down there. But for the women down there, and for the women actually around the world.
And it was all fairly playful.
It was charming. It was exciting. Remember what Donald Trump was like in 95, 96. On the counter were these fancy lingerie boxes that they used to have back in the 90s.
Yeah.
You wore lingerie in the 90s, I'll bet, Joy. He didn't suggest it. He shouted it.
He shouted
lingerie. Lingerie. He may have shouted underwear. Okay.
Were you scared? Were you
angry?
Were you?
I was too panicked to be scared.
Too panicked to be scared. Okay.
Totally. And I put my life on the line.
Do you think that you're going, well, hold on a second. What do you mean you've put your life on the line?
Well, people have told me I have to be careful.
You've gotten death threats.
I am not looking at death threats. I have the idea that I'm going to make him put it on over his pants. That was my idea. Mm-hmm. You see how funny that would be to make him put that on?
I guess my question is, could there be any DNA on there?
I have no idea. I do not know if the president ejaculated. I have no idea. Lawrence, I wish I had said, I'll tell you my age if you show me your tax returns.
Yeah, it would have been helpful now.
Well, so I'm holding my handbag like this. The only reason I know I'm holding my handbag is because I discovered it in my hand when I got to the street.
The statement that he said, which he's just made, which is, she's not my type, number one, that was the number one thing.
I love that I'm not his type. I'm an archer. I have bows and arrows, you know. I think they're just too, never mind.
I think most people think of rape as it is a violent assault. It is not.
I think most people think of rape as being sexy.
Let's take a short break.
Think of the fantasies.
Okay, so very strange conversation happening there with E. Jean Carroll and everybody in the media, okay? They just take this troubled woman and they parade her all over the place because she's going to say good things for their side. They're going to say she is going to take out Trump, so it really doesn't matter what she says. As long as she can keep it together for this little segment, it's going to be useful for us. So we're going to hear from Nikki Haley, then we're going to hear from Joe Brezinski, and then in the next segment, we're going to jump into the trial excerpt from Inner City Press Matthew Russell Lee. But this is what Nikki Haley said after coming in third place in Iowa like a total loser. She says, you know, we're going to just wait and see. And this is a little, interesting exchange from Nikki. The first time I listened to this, I think that she's actually being a little less aggressive towards Trump. Actually, we'll wait and see, he's innocent, proven till guilty, all of that. Here's Nikki.
You're the only woman in this race. How do you feel about your party's front runner being held liable for sexual abuse?
I mean, first of all, I haven't paid attention to his cases, and I'm not a lawyer. All I know is that he's innocent until proven guilty, and when he's proven guilty and he's sitting in a courtroom, that's exactly what I'm talking about. You've got investigations on Trump and Biden.
But a lot of people, forgive me, but a lot of people in the Republican Party blow it all off and say
it's rigged.
It's all a witch hunt and
a shame.
I think some of the cases have been political. This one I haven't looked at, but look, if he's found guilty, then he needs to pay the price. He needs to do what he's supposed to. Every one of these cases, they need to be heard out. He needs to defend himself. If he is found guilty, he's going to pay the price. If he's not found guilty, then we move forward. What I will tell you is
that's not right. I mean, it is technically right, I guess, but it's the wrong answer. Yes, if he's found guilty, he'll do what he needs to do. If not, he's going to do what he needs to do. Okay, that's brilliant analysis. I guess that's technically true. My point is, she is not really commenting on the process, not saying, well, what is happening is illegitimate or that it is legitimate. She's just, we'll wait and see. Really, that's her whole answer here.
I'm focused on the economy, the border, and education and getting our country back on track. If he's sitting in a courtroom, that goes back to what I'm saying. We can't continue to be distracted. We can't continue to be in chaos. We have a country to save.
Okay, so I can see how she, like, that answer is consistent with her gunning for the VP spot. She didn't say anything that was really bad about Trump. She didn't endorse Trump. She just kind of said, we don't need the distractions anymore either. So if Trump put her on the ticket, for example, I really hope that he does not, but if he did, she could just turn around and say, yes, this is a political witch hunt. This is chaos that's being introduced against Trump. And she didn't say anything there that I think actually hurts her, which makes me think that she is maybe shifting her strategy a bit towards that VP slot. So that's Nikki Haley. Now over on the Joe Brezinski show that is run by Mika on Morning Joe, they're calling this out accurately. They're saying, hey, this is something that is fueling Donald Trump. Every time he gets indicted and there's a new case, there's a new trial, there's a new motion, a new filing, a new appeal, he comes out on top. Here is Mr. Joe Brezinski.
For Donald Trump, and if you look at the entrance polls yesterday, these Republicans say they don't care that he's in court. In fact, he's in court today facing a woman that a judge says he raped.
No.
Donald?
No, that's wrong. That's misinformation, buddy. First of all, it was a jury and they said Trump was not liable for that at all. So are you going to correct the record there, Joe? It was DJ Diddles, okay? Not the old hibbity-dibbity.
Trump is there because that's the best political fuel he can get. That's how twisted things are in the personality cult. And he's going into these courtrooms because of the grand spectacle, because it helps him, because 65% of Republicans in Iowa say if he's convicted, they still want him to be his president. And there's 20% in another poll.
Look at those numbers. How beautiful is that? If Trump is convicted, is he fit to be president? Yeah. 2/3 say, yeah, he is. He's fine. First of all, we think that your so-called conviction is irrelevant and everything that is coming against him is lacking in credibility. And so, yeah, he's absolutely fit to be president, punks.
In the Des Moines Register NBC poll, the 20% said the fact that he's indicted or that he's found guilty and a judge says that he raped a woman, that makes him more likely.
Judge never said that, liar.
Likely to vote for him.
Okay, yeah, well, it is. It's because you guys keep making up lies and it kind of irritates us, which is why we say, okay, well, if you're going to keep lying and making up stuff, in addition, first of all, this is all a weaponized. New York changed the statute so that E. Jean Carroll could bring the claim in the first place. Whole thing is being funded by Reid Hoffman to the tunes of hundreds of thousands of dollars. He has a background in palling around with Jeffrey Epstein, so don't spare me the fact about sexual victimhood, right? He doesn't care about that at all. And this is now being prosecuted by a judge and by, well, we've covered the case at length. The judge was very disfavorable to Donald Trump, had a strong bias against him and Joe Tacopina in the first trial. It was kind of shocking to even hear it, but it's the same judge. He's back on the case again. So, and even with all of that being rigged as it is, they still have to make up crap. Isn't it wild? He still has to come out here and say, the judge found that Trump raped somebody. Not true at all. Wrong on both counts. Not a judge and not that charge at all, Joe. So they just lie. Okay. And that's just the media for you. So this is Trump. Now, this is the foundation for Trump trial day one. A lot of stuff. We now know what the status is. We now know we've got new lawyers on the case. Immunity has been denied. We're going to jump over into the next segment. So come and join us for the next X script, which is going to be day one of the trial.